So under the airport flight path for the Los Angeles International Airport, I'm here at the Inglewood Park Cemetery, here to visit some graves for this episode of History Hunters. I'm really amazed at the variety of graves here. I'm in a section with the taller upright and the mausoleums that mark the top of the hill here. I'm here to explore some graves of celebrities that you may remember from your past, some historical people that maybe you have never heard of. So join me on this episode. I just pulled into the cemetery and I found this grave. Jim Jeffries. Nicknamed the Boilermaker, Jim Jeffries was the world heavyweight champion from 1899 to 1904. He seized the title with an 11th round knockout of reigning champion Bob Fitzsimmons on January 9, 1899. He defended his title 7 times, including rematches with Fitzsimmons and Tom Sharkey and 2 challenges from gentleman Jim Corbett. Jeffries was one of the few prize fighters to go out on top when he retired in 1905, but he made the fateful decision to stage a comeback in 1910 against then heavyweight champion Jack Johnson. Jeffries, then 35, was billed as the Great White Hope in this hugely promoted bout against Johnson, who was a black man, in Reno, Nevada, but he was knocked out unconscious in the 15th round. It was the only loss of Jeffries' career, which included 18 wins, 15 of them by knockouts, and 2 draws. So one of the graves that I wanted to highlight is Cleo Moore. Cleo Moore Heffler. She was an actress. She was a sex symbol. She was a B-movie actress. She was, for a brief time, married to Palmer Long, who was the son of Huey Long, the famous governor of Louisiana and senator who was assassinated. Some of her notable roles included Bright Leaf, 1950, Gambling House, 1951, On Dangerous Ground, The Other Woman, Bait, Women's Prison, and Hit and Run. Unfortunately, she died at the age of 48 from a heart attack.
Oh, Mike, isn't he beautiful? Ooh, what a pair of eyes.
Yeah, what a pair of eyes.
Cut it out, will you? Oh, you're up already?
Yeah, isn't it beautiful?
Just like a fairy tale. Just beautiful.
Now, press it against the paper. Lightly, not too hard.
It's so tricky.
Now roll it back and forth. Now, lick it. Wet it. More, it won't stick together.
You shouldn't have done that.
No, but I couldn't help it.
Moore was born into poverty in Louisiana, but had big dreams of seeing her name in lights. While her films did get attention and she was successful, the mainstream cinema bypassed her for bigger-name blondes like Marilyn Monroe, Jane Mansfield, and Mamie Van Doren, who had better publicity, agents, and studios. Mad and frustrated at the studio system and Hollywood moguls who tried to copy-paste Marilyn impersonators, Moore was determined to be a movie star and started her own production company. To grab attention on one occasion in 1954, Moore tried a stunt on live Chicago TV. With an interview with host Jack Hagan, she staged a televised kiss that lasted 5 minutes and 17 seconds. She knew that kissing a married man on TV for that long would make headlines. Some viewers protested with letters saying it was vulgar. Hagan refused to apologize and claimed he had approval from his wife of 18 years, but he was fired nonetheless. Unmarried at the time, a pregnancy caused her to drop out of sight since a scandal of that magnitude would have destroyed her career. She quietly gave birth to a girl named Deborah Lee and passed the child off as her sister's. She later adopted the child. By 1956, her career was over, leaving Moore gravely disappointed. Cleo Moore then suddenly disappeared. Because she wasn't that big of a name like Marilyn Monroe, it was easier for her to vanish. In 1961, she married Herbert Heffler, who was a builder. She did find success in real estate, but she had major regrets about a career that stalled out. In her final years, Moore spent much time in her bedroom, reminiscing about her past and browsing through scrapbooks. She would often listen to Elvis Presley or watch old films. Moore was brokenhearted and sank into a deep depression after her mother died in 1973. Just 8 months later, Moore died of a heart attack at the age of 49. She is buried next to her mother and her father. So this next one kind of threw me for a loop because I was looking for the name of Rocky Lane, which is the stage name or the movie name for Harry Albershart. And right there in the middle it says Ellen Rocky Lane, 1909 to 1973. This guy starred in a lot of westerns. Rocky Lane appeared in more than 125 films and TV shows in a career lasting from 1929 to 1966.
My name's Denver, the Denver Kid. Drifting's my business. I heard Cemetery Ridge was a good place to cool off.
Oh, it's a great climate. But it'll cost you.
I'm willing to pay. Any more questions?
Yeah. What are you going to do with my shells?
He is probably best known for his portrayal of Red Ryder, but between 1947 and 1953, he made over 30 B-movie westerns as Rocky Lane with his faithful horse Blackjack. His last role was doing the voiceover for Mr. Ed the Talking Horse from 1961 to 1966, but was never credited on screen.
Hello, I'm Mr. Ed.
At the age of 64 on October 27, 1973, Lane died of cancer in his Woodland Hills home. Lane was one of the movie Cowboys mentioned in the song Whatever Happened to Randolph Scott, recorded by the Statler Brothers, which became a hit in 1974. With the name of Harry Albershart, there's no wonder why they changed his stage name to Rocky Lane. Has a much better ring to it for audiences, doesn't it? Very peaceful morning here in the cemetery. Overcast, coastal fog. And right here is the grave of the famous Gypsy Rose Lee, the stripper who brought respectability to the art of stripping. She had her own TV show in 1958, and she wrote 3 books. And at one point she was making $1,500 a week, and good money back then.
I'm wearing these specially for a guest of mine who is with me today and who called me from Green Bay, Wisconsin, to tell us that she was going to be here today. And she said, "But Gypsy, you must wear your gloves." She said, "I have told all of my friends that you have a certain way of taking them off." Well, I haven't really. It's just that you.
So I think that you sports fans, particularly you boxing fans, are going to appreciate this next grave that I'm going to visit. Here is the grave, this is a cool grave, of Sugar Ray Robinson, our champion. There's his picture right there. 1921 to 1989. God loved you and I will. Always forever your wife, Millie. Millie died after him. God took her home, it was his will, but in our hearts she liveth still. And somebody's left some mementos here. Born as Walker Smith Jr., Sugar Ray competed from 1940 to 1965. He is often regarded as the greatest boxer of all time. A fight in June 1947 proved deadly. Robinson was scheduled to defend his title for the first time in a bout against Jimmy Doyle. Robinson initially backed out of the fight because he had a dream that he was going to kill Doyle, but his minister convinced him to fight. Unfortunately, his dream turned out to become reality. Robinson dominated Doyle and scored a decisive knockout in the 8th round that knocked Doyle unconscious and resulted in Doyle's death later that night. Robinson said the impact of Doyle's death was, quote, very trying. After Doyle's death, murder charges were threatened against Robinson in Cleveland, Ohio, though none actually materialized. After learning of Doyle's intentions of using any prize money to buy his mother a house, Robinson gave up the money from his next 4 bouts so that she could purchase a home for herself. After he hung up his gloves in 1965, he attempted a career as an entertainer but wasn't successful. He struggled financially up until his death in 1989. In 2006, he was featured on a commemorative stamp by the U.S. Postal Service. I think markers like this is so cool because it shows the personality of the individual involved. Just a plaque on the ground with the name and dates doesn't really serve him justice, I think. So this individual I had to single out because he was born in 1896 and died in 1956. But he was a restaurateur who, guess what? Caesar salad inventor. He invented Caesar salad. Cesare Cardini was an Italian-born American restaurateur, chef, and hotel owner, along with being credited for the first ever Caesar salad. Cardini came to the United States in 1913 with his brothers. They ran restaurants that spanned from Sacramento to Hollywood, San Diego, and Tijuana. At his Tijuana restaurant shown here, the Caesar salad was born, featuring a blend of romaine lettuce, Parmesan cheese, croutons, and a highly seasoned dressing. It became his trademark by 1948. This mausoleum contains the remains of perhaps the most controversial figure in this entire video. I say controversial because most people believe that he was responsible for getting an innocent verdict in the murder trial of O.J. Simpson, who undoubtedly killed his estranged wife Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ron Goldman. The crypt of lawyer Johnnie Cochran is found in the Chapel of Honor Mausoleum. Cochran was the one who came up with the strategy of Simpson trying on a blood-dried and shrunken leather glove, which was key evidence left at the scene. In the courtroom, Simpson was wearing latex gloves before putting on the black glove. There's speculation that he may have intentionally bunched up his fingers to make the gloves appear smaller, and the theory that Simpson also stopped taking his arthritis medication, causing his hands to swell and making the gloves more difficult to fit. Here at rest is another O.J. Simpson attorney, Robert Kardashian. Kardashian met Simpson at the University of Southern California and became friends with him in the late 1970s. After the murder of his estranged wife, Simpson camped out at Kardashian's home in the days following. The infamous chase in the white Ford Bronco began at Kardashian's house. Kardashian and Simpson had a falling out in later years over Kardashian's public comments that he had doubts about Simpson's innocence. Kardashian died of cancer 8 weeks after he was diagnosed. So on this terrace, I found the grave of William B. Thomas. You know him as Buckwheat. Buckwheat in 93 art gang films, beginning in 1934 and over the next decade. He was actually a replacement for Matthew Stymie Beard. He was also known for his tangle of braids, his floppy hat, his striped shirt, and his tattered pants held up by one suspender.
It says in the book that a fighter has to have confidence. Have you got any? I don't think so. Well, after you lick buckwheat, you'll have plenty. Shake hand, boys. Porky, ring the bell.
Now, his marker says that he served in World War II, but that is not possible. He did serve in the Army in the Korean War, and after he quit films, he worked for many years as a lab technician at Technicolor, and he made a few attempts to cash in on his fame, but he was content with the life he had. Now, they did give him a standing ovation at the Art Gang reunion. I think it was August 1980. Thomas was moved to tears, and 2 months later, he died of a heart attack at the age of 49. Donald F. Haines, former child star, served as an aviation cadet in the Army Air Corps during World War II. He was made first lieutenant, but was later killed in action. He's probably best known for his role as Speck in several of the Little Rascal comedies between 1934 and 1932. In the following film clip from Little Rascal's short Big Ears, you'll see Haines in a scene with little Bobby Hutchins, who was later killed in a plane crash. He is at a training airfield east of Turlock, California in 1945. I did a video on that crash and will leave a link in this video description.
It means that your dad's gonna give your mom the air. He's gonna leave your mom flat.
You mean my dad's going away and leave my mom all alone?
Sure, you won't have no dad then. Maybe you won't have no ma either. He might send you to an orphan's home.
Send me to an orphan's home?
Yeah. You might even have a stepfather or stepmother. Boy, that's what God wished on me.
Now, in the Garden of Peace section, we will find a famous musician by the name of Billy Preston. You may remember him for singing the hit song, Nothing from Nothing Leaves Nothing.
Nothing from nothing leaves nothing.
Billy Preston was a child prodigy on piano and organ who eventually was mentored and played with Ray Charles. He played a young W.C. Handy in the 1958 biopic St. Louis Blues. In 1975, Preston was the first ever musical guest to appear on Saturday Night Live. He was often called the Fifth Beatle because he played keyboards for the Beatles on the White Album, Abbey Road, and Let It Be. Preston was the only guest artist to receive a credit on a Beatles single when Get Back was credited as The Beatles with Billy Preston in 1969. He also performed frequently with the Rolling Stones, most notably on their hit song Miss You, and often played with Eric Clapton. I'm always struck by the obscure people in history who most of us don't even know about. We know a lot of thanks to the people like these unsung heroes here that we've all forgotten about. Mr. Rochefort helped defeat the Japanese at Midway, and it's important that we remember them. And I'm always struck how obscure their graves are, and nobody knows anything about it. And I think that's the importance of channels like History Hunters. We bring out things that you probably didn't know about and weren't taught in school. So we appreciate you being fans of this channel. This is the grave of Joseph John Rochefort. He was a captain in the U.S. Navy. He served in World War I, II, and Korea. Now, what makes him pretty significant is that he is the one that helped the U.S. win World War II against the Japanese. So let me explain. He was actually a naval officer who led a team of intelligence analysts at Station Hypo at Pearl Harbor that broke the Japanese naval code, JN-25, before the Battle of Midway. This intelligence information gave Admiral Chester Nimitz the chance to surprise and defeat the Japanese, who were basically a superior enemy force, and save the Midway Island from capture. This naval battle was, of course, pivotal to the outcome of the war and dealt a huge blow to the Japanese war machine, from which it never recovered. So we have a lot of thanks to give this man here. And of course, behind every great man is a great woman. Elma Rochefort, his wife, 1900 to 1969. Edmund Richard Hoot Gibson, 1892 to 1962, was a rodeo champion, film actor, film director, and producer. He has successfully transitioned from silent films to become a leading performer in Hollywood's growing cowboy film industry. Between World War I and II, he was second only to cowboy film legend Tom Mix as a box office draw. He has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and was inducted into the Western Performers Hall of Fame at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum. This is funny. Jessie Gibson, Castaway, professional dancer. Her mother's over here, and Hoot is over here. I don't know if you can make it out, but there's a saddle right there between his birth year and his death year. Very hard to see. This was certainly a grave that I was hoping to find. It's that of silent film actress Evelyn Selbie. She died in 1950. She played in over 110 movies, mostly westerns. In Bronco Billy films, she was opposite Gilbert Anderson. You know, I found a signed photo of her for just like $10 or something. It's really a cool picture, and I will show it in this video as well. And next to her is her husband, Harvey Selbie. He died in 1923. So she went a long time without her husband. In this beautiful little terrace area, we find the burial spot of actor Robert Guillaume. Robert Peter Williams, better known as Robert Guillaume, had a career that spanned more than 50 years on stage, TV, and film. He played Fishbone on the TV series Good Times and Benson Dubois in the series Soap and its spin-off Benson. He also voiced the Mandrel Rafiki in The Lion King. Guillaume was the first African-American actor to portray the title role in Andrew Lloyd Webber's The Phantom of the Opera.
Robert Guillaume was one of the actors that I appreciated as an autograph collector because he sent me a signed photo that I still have, 8x10 glossy. Always appreciate when celebrities would do that for their fans. So we're going to find Ray Charles, the music legend, in this area right here. So these mausoleums are like catacombs that go on forever and ever. And I almost didn't find him, but I came in to find the grave of Ray Charles. And all I had to do is look for these roses up here. Ray Charles Robinson, 1930 to 2004. He's about 4 up. And for such a music legend, I'm surprised there isn't more.
Ray Charles is best known for such hits as Georgia on My Mind, Mess Around, I Can't Stop Loving You, Hit the Road Jack, and his rendition of America the Beautiful.
America, sweet America, make God thy gold refiner.
Charles began losing his sight at the age of 4 or 5 and was blinded at the age of 7, likely as the result of glaucoma. Destitute, uneducated, and mourning the loss of her younger son, Aretha Robinson used her connections in the community to find a school that would accept a blind African-American pupil. Despite his initial protest, Charles attended school at the Florida School for the Deaf and Blind in St. Augustine from 1937 to 1945 and learned to play a variety of instruments including the piano, alto saxophone, clarinet, trumpet, and organ. He focused primarily on the piano.
So I did notice the music note up there, and then I also noticed it says A23 or A32 right there. I almost gave up on finding this grave because it's covered in grass and there's some track marks across it. And a lot of the graves in this section are so dark because they haven't been cleaned in so long. But found the grave of Tiny Kline. When we went to Disneyland, I remember my mother telling me that this old lady was doing Tinkerbell flying across the skies in Disneyland. It's her. I found her. Our Tinkerbell, Tiny Helen Kline. 1891 to 1964.
Tiny Kline was born in Hungary and became a circus performer for Barnum and Bailey Circus. In 1905, she came to the United States as a burlesque dancer, but moved on to perform in the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus as Tiny Ducci. There she met rodeo trick rider Otto Klein, and 2 years later they married. After he died during a ride, she took over the act and learned acrobatic tricks, including the aerial iron jaw act, where she would be suspended by the mouth on a long glide wire. Tiny Kline enjoyed performing her daredevil acts in large public locations, including her Slide for Life over Broadway in New York City in 1932. In 1961, Walt Disney began a search for Tinkerbell to wow crowds at Disneyland. At age 70, Kline was hired to glide down a wire connecting the Matterhorn to Sleeping Beauty's castle, stopped by a mattress at the end of the wire. She retired and died in 1964.
Isn't life rather strange, you think about? I mean, this lady was doing high wire acts over Disneyland. Millions of people saw her, and now she's buried in the ground here and completely forgotten. Glad that we could remember her today. You know, second thought is, if she retired at 64, I'm not so sure that we saw her because I would have been 3 years old. But I do remember my mother telling me that this older lady was up there playing Tinkerbell. Of course, she was so high up there that nobody could actually tell it was an old lady instead of a young cartoon-like character. So I'm on top of a hill on a very nice section with some grand mausoleums here. And it took me a while to find this grave, but Edgar Bergen. Some of you may remember Edgar Bergen, the ventriloquist, the father of Candace Bergen, and he's buried right here.
Just as I thought, young man. Here's your pin. You'd slipped it inside of your shirt.
Now I don't have to pay you nothing.
Oh, yes, you do.
Well, then give me the pin. Why? I'm going to swallow it. You're going to earn your money.
Is that
So let me tell you a little bit about Edgar Bergen. Of course, he was a comedian and ventriloquist and one of the last great vaudevillian-style actors. Best remembered for his creation of the puppet characters Charlie McCarthy and Mortimer Snerd. His early movie roles were so popular that in 1937 he starred in his own radio show, the Edgar Bergen Charlie McCarthy Show, which ran until 1956, when the growing popularity of TV took away his radio audience. From 1937 to 1959, and again in the early 1980s, he played in many films, including such hits as The Hollywood Handicap, The Goldwyn Follies, Stage Door Canteen, Charlie McCarthy and Mortimer Snerd in Sweden, and The Muppet Movie in 1979, which came out after his death, but the film's dedicated to him. In most films, he played himself, of course. After 1956, he made guest appearances on The Jack Benny Show, The Tonight Show, The Ed Sullivan Show, and numerous cameo roles, usually without Charlie McCarthy. He was the father of actress Candace Bergen, and in 1991, the U.S. Postal Service honored him with a 29-cent commemorative stamp. He died of kidney disease in Las Vegas. I don't think there's a lot of ventriloquists today that have a lot of huge following. Back in the day when Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy were doing their act on early TV, it was always clean, it was always interesting and always humorous. Today, it's, with Jeff Dunham, he pushes the envelope sometimes, but it's not a real major draw for audiences. Apparently we're going to find LA Mayor Tom Bradley in here. I had asked that kind gentleman there to show me Tom Bradley's grave, and he took me right to it. It's up high. I probably would have never found him.
Tom Bradley was a 5-term mayor of Los Angeles who served from 1973 to 1993, making him the longest-serving mayor in the city's history. A native of Texas, Bradley was raised in Los Angeles. His track and football record at Los Angeles Polytechnic High School earned Bradley a UCLA scholarship, where he became the team's top quarter-miler. After graduating, he spent 21 years with the Los Angeles Police Department and retired as a lieutenant. He won a seat on the Los Angeles City Council and was elected in 1973 as the 38th and first black mayor of Los Angeles. Upon his retirement, Bradley joined a law firm. In this mausoleum, I found Ella Fitzgerald, one of the most celebrated jazz singers of her generation and known as the First Lady of Jazz. She learned to sing by imitating the vocal styles she heard on the radio and records, especially those of Louis Armstrong and Connie Boswell of the Boswell Sisters. Fitzgerald made her stage debut in 1934 when she won an amateur contest at the Apollo Theater in Harlem, singing Judy and The Object of My Affection. She recorded her first hit, A Tisket, a Tasket, with Chick Webb's band in 1939. In her music career, Ella Fitzgerald made more recordings than nearly anyone else in jazz history. Beginning in the early 1970s, Fitzgerald was plagued with diabetes and health problems, but continued to perform at least once a month into the early 1990s.
He's much too close to comfort.
In 1993, both of her legs were amputated below the knees. She died at her Beverly Hills home on June 15th, 1996.
So I think that's going to wrap it up. Man, I spent 4 hours here. I am wiped out. I cannot believe how big this cemetery is, but it's huge. And I covered most of those celebrities that I wanted to cover. I didn't cover them all. Betty Grable, for example, I was disappointed I didn't find her. But I can tell you that those mausoleums are like a catacomb, and it's almost impossible to find celebrities. If you could please give us a thumbs up, I would appreciate that, and a comment. Let us know who some of your favorite celebrities were on the visit that we made here to Inglewood Cemetery. Thank you so much for being supportive of History Hunters. I think that guy there was following me around, taping celebrities too. So driving down Florence to leave the cemetery, and on the way in I looked up and noticed I was at Florence and Normandy, and many of you folks will remember what happened at this intersection up here during the Los Angeles riots. There was a white truck driver by the name of Reginald Denny. He was stopped right in the middle of this intersection up here, and he was savagely beaten. So this was like ground zero for the LA riots. But this is the famous intersection of Florence and Normandy. I had seen that on TV so many times and vowed never to come to this part of LA, but here I am. Things have settled down, of course, since then. Some really bad history here.